Hello everyone, welcome again to Indian Story Read Along. Today we're going to read another story from, this is one of my favorite books by now, Jataka Tales, Stories of Wisdom by Amar Chitra Katha. This is called The Wise Leader. It's a really interesting story and a little bit scary as well. Let's start. The first thing I want you to know is what a caravan is. This story is all about caravans. There are two caravans in the story. That one cart that you see there, that's not a caravan, that's just a cart. A whole row of carts all traveling together across a long distance, like a desert or through the woods, that is a caravan. That's how they used to travel back in the old days, with these covered carts. Led by cows or pulled by horses, so that they wouldn't catch any trouble on the way. They wouldn't encounter any robbers or burglars or anyone. With a whole bunch of people, you're much more safe. Okay, so that's what a caravan is. So we're going to start. The Wise Leader. A caravan of carts led by an elderly merchant was about to enter a desert. So there's no backs or fronts on these vehicles. So just like the same way you talk to your parents when they're in the front of the car and you're sitting in the back, these guys talk to each other from between the two carts. So the guy in the back cart is saying, "The thought of crossing this desert frightens me." And he says, "I'd be happier if we had a bolder man to lead us. Our old master is much too cautious for my liking." And the guy in the front says, "I agree with you." The guy in the front continues, "We should have been in the caravan of that smart young merchant who visited our camp some days ago." And the guy in the back says, "Yes, we should have. How cleverly he talked our master into letting him go ahead of us. He must be out of the desert by now, the lucky man." So now you know, like I said, there's two caravans, one led by a young merchant who we never see in this story, and one by the older merchant. And here he is. Meanwhile, at the head of the caravan, the leader turned to his carter. He says to him, Do we have enough water?" And the carter says, "Yes, sir, all of our jars are full. Thanks to those freshly dug wells we found all along the way. I wonder who dug them." And the old leader says, "Who else but that young merchant who came to see me in the city? Now you know why I agreed to let his caravan go ahead of ours." Oh, so he wasn't talked into anything like his men were thinking. It was his idea. Digging wells is hard work. I did not want to lead exhausted men across this arid desert. Arid means super, super dry. So now he's turning around and they're at the edge of the desert. He stopped and turned around and he's talking to everybody in all the carts now. "From now on, we must conserve every drop of water we have. It'll take us several days to cross this barren, sun-scorched desert. And you can be sure we won't find any water along the way." The caravan entered the desert and began to make slow but steady progress. When cows pull a cart, it's super, super slow, so they're not going quickly. Several miles later, the men are talking. Oh no, the carter is talking to the old leader. He goes, "Hey, those people seem to be heading this way. All the way over there, you can see there's a crowd of people coming." And then the old leader looks very closely across there and he says, "I wonder who they are." Now those people start to talk to the caravan leader. "Greetings to you, sir. You must have come from Varanasi." And then the other travelers say, "Your men look tired. They could refresh themselves when you reach the forest." And the old leader is confused. "Which forest are you talking about?" he asks. And then the leader of the other cart says, "The great forest beyond those sand dunes." Dunes are like little hills made of sand. So the traveler continues, "It's full of lakes and pools. that's where we found these lotuses and water lilies. Look, they're carrying a whole bunch of flowers. It goes, you must have noticed that our clothes are drenched. It was raining heavily there just now. Now look, you're going to have to remember this later. The old leader first, he looks up at the sky, and then he looks right at the guy he's talking to, and he goes, like he doesn't really believe him. Remember that. So then another traveler says to his chief, look at the amount of water they are carrying, chief. And the chief says, sheer madness. The chief tells the old leader, those heavily laden carts will only slow down your progress, sir. Empty those jars. You won't need the water. And then the old leader says, thank you for the advice, friend, but I prefer to keep the water. And the chief says, keep it by all means. But if I were you, I'd get rid of that burden. For the sooner you get out of this desert, the better for all of you. Farewell. And see, if you noticed, it's kind of like he was making it sound like the old leader was making a mistake by keeping all of the water in his carts. But the old leader doesn't care, but look, his men care. And now they're talking. Those people are right. We are crawling at a snail's pace because of those water jars. And another one says, let's do as they advised. So they're ready to dump all the water. If there are lakes ahead, why should we carry all that water? And then the chief interrupts and says, I'll tell you why. The chief says, those people were man-eating demons. They were trying to trick us into throwing away our water. What? They know we are too strong for them now, but without water, we would soon lose our strength and fall prey to them. And the leader continues, you can be sure there are no forests or pools ahead. Get back into the carts and let's move on. The caravan resumed its journey. And now the men are upset and they're all talking, but they have to listen to him. Man-eating demons! Ha! Next he'll start imagining that our bullocks are demons. And the other traveler says, how I wish we had joined that young merchant's caravan. So if you notice something, they're kind of making fun of this leader because he's old. That's one thing. And they're thinking that, oh, this guy's so old, he doesn't know what he's talking about anymore. And I don't think that's right, because old people have a lot of experience. And that might be something that comes into play here. Let's keep reading. The men are still talking. You're telling me he has brains, that man. The young leader. He wouldn't go about seeing demons and innocent travelers. We'll talk to the others again about, hey, what's that? Look, he spots something over there, and if you can see really close, there's vultures. There's some birds there. It's some sort of wreckage. Good God, the remains of a caravan. You can see all those bones, human and animal bones down there. The other guy goes, I have a feeling it's the caravan of that young merchant we were so eager to join. So then up ahead, the carter says to the leader, Sir, is that the caravan which went ahead of us? And the leader says, I'm afraid so. The leader says, the demons must have tricked them in the same way as they tried to trick us. They have devoured the men. Look at all the bones lying all around. And look, there's a vulture. They're just going around, they're picking what's left. And now the men realize this could have been them. I'm ashamed of myself, sir. So am I, sir, says another man. But I still can't believe they were real demons. The leader says, I don't blame you. Those demons could have fooled anyone. And a man says, well, how did you know they were lying, sir? Now, listen to his answer. It's brilliant. The leader says, they said it was raining heavily in the forest, which according to them was not too far away. But when I looked up, I could not see a rain cloud anywhere in the sky. That made me suspicious. Then I looked closely at them and saw that their eyes were round and red like those of demons. Then I knew they were not ordinary men. So then they're speaking in the background there. In the foreground are the demons watching them from behind another sand dune. But the old leader is so wise that he knows that anyway. He goes, I'm sure they are still watching us from the top of those dunes. On the dunes, the demons are talking. They are looking this way. Our trick has failed. I think the chief is talking. I was hoping his men would rebel and throw out the water. But there's no chance of that happening now. Let's go back. As the carters drove on, you know, we are lucky we chose to work for such a wise leader. Really different from the beginning, huh? And another guy says, oh, you're telling me he has brains, that man. So what does this tell you? I think what it tells you is that you have to look at whether somebody is wise or whether they don't have a lot of experience. Don't look at whether they're young or old. There's young people who are very wise, there's old people who are very wise. And don't write off anyone before you get to know them. I think this is a brilliant story. If you like it, why don't you subscribe to our channel or tell us on Facebook what you think of it. This has been another story from Indian Story Read Along. We'll see you again next time.